I have somehow managed to put in 65 hours of game time into a game that I have been in a love-hate relationship with. I was not a massive fan of Battlefront 2 2017 when it first launched, and not even because of the microtransaction problem. My main problems revolved around the lack of balance in the game, a problem that has been worked on quite a bit but can still exist in certain areas. From the weapons, to the star cards, to the heroes, to the starfighters, to the maps, to the game modes, almost every area of the game felt like it had balancing issues. Then you add microtransactions into the mix and it gets even worse. I spent multiple months away from the game, but I have found myself periodically returning and greatly enjoying Battlefront 2. But it doesn't always manage to keep me for long. The main reason being that my interest is renewed mainly when it changes its DNA and sets out to do something extreme. I tried to think back to my most memorable moments in Battlefront 2 2017. I can usually recall great moments that I had with most games that I have played. Mass Effect 2, Knights of the Old Republic, the Uncharted games, and many other single-player games stick with me because of certain story beats and gameplay moments. And multiplayer games such as the Battlefield games and Battlefront 2 2005 stick with me as I remember the adrenaline-fueled moments of kill streaks, close matches, tight teamwork, or barely surviving an encounter. I even had a lot of great moments in Battlefront 2015, a game that I thoroughly enjoyed even with its issues. But with Battlefront 2 2017, I did not have any memorable moments, at least good ones. There was never really a moment where I could recall a standout experience in the game that was positive for me. Outside of some campaign moments, there was nothing in the multiplayer that stood out for me past the betas. I think this is mainly because Battlefront 2 hasn't managed to do much that is truly unique. For a shooter that has so much to draw from, whether it be the Star Wars movies, shows, books, comics, or even other games, it manages to feel a little too similar to other shooters, but with a battle point system and star cards tacked on. The game felt safe in too many areas as it seemed to be figuring out exactly what it wanted to do. This never allowed it to have that many unique experiences. Rather than building off of Battlefront 2015, it took a risk and reworked a majority of the mechanics. With microtransactions being eliminated for the most part, the game's future was probably restructured completely as well, holding it back from adding any significantly deep content to the game. And with what interesting things it did add to the game, such as the reworked starfighter controls and heroes, it was held back by overpowered star cards or general imbalance. I had given up on the game shortly after release, but I found myself returning with the addition of Ewok Hunt. This mode was unlike any of the other modes in the game and even managed to feel fresh in comparison to other games. Rather than a generic deathmatch style mode or another linear one-sided game mode, it played like a horror game in which it managed to turn cute Ewoks into terrifying creatures that preyed on stormtroopers. Playing it for the first few handful of hours before everyone knew what they were really doing was amazing. I had more fun than I had had in a long time in any multiplayer game. And what was even better, the star card system was completely eradicated and instead relied on preset loadouts that you either spawn with or found in the map. I was obsessed with the mode for a while and put a lot of time into it before it started to become familiar and stale for me. Some fixes have helped to get rid of some exploits, but I do think that gameplay additions and changes would keep people interested in the mode. Things such as randomizing the shuttle location, pickups for the Ewoks to find, or maybe even a crazy modifier which has Vader versus 31 Ewoks would help the mode to stay relevant. After Ewok Hunt, we haven't really gotten anything else like it. There have been additions, updates, and changes which have increased the quality of the game, but there hasn't been any unique Star Wars-like modes added to the game. For a multiplayer game set in the Star Wars universe, it doesn't manage to feel as cool or awesome as it should be. I personally believe that Battlefront 2015 did a much better job with the Death Star and Rogue One DLC packs, as these modes and maps felt like you were in the movies themselves. Battlefront 2 2017 has always struggled with feeling like a true Star Wars experience rather than a generic shooter with a Star Wars skin on it. The only other thing that has been truly memorable and interesting has been the recent Heroes Unleashed weekend event. This event pushed Galactic Assault to its limit and allowed almost half of the players on the map to play as heroes or villains at any given time. The cost for heroes was reduced and the limit was increased to 8 heroes per side. I thought that this would only result in madness with heroes murdering everyone in sight, but I found that as a hero, I was often engaged with other heroes. In the standard game mode with limited heroes, there can be a lot of times where you play an unbalanced game where there are 2 enemy heroes eliminating everyone without an opposing hero to stop them. Since almost anyone could play as a hero in this mode, the battles were always intense and fast-paced as heroes led the charge into battle. For one of the first times, Star Wars Battlefront 2 2017 actually felt like a Star Wars game, with Jedi and Sith leading their troops into battle. It was a ton of fun, but it only lasted a couple days. Thankfully, this mode will return on November 16th, but it is only for another weekend. And unfortunately for me, I won't be able to play it that weekend. I think that Battlefront 2 needs to embrace its crazy side more. It needs to not be afraid to try new things, break the rules, or even potentially break the game in some positive ways. It seems like a game that tried too hard to be different in some areas, but also similar in others, but it never really succeeded at either. The multitude of options for star cards, heroes, and other upgrades could be very intimidating for the softcore arcade fans, but the plethora of cheesy moments and abilities are a deterrent to the more hardcore shooter fans. It never really found the healthy balance that it needed. Even now, I find the star cards and plethora of classes daunting, and I would consider myself closer to the hardcore spectrum. And there are also still those moments where I roll my eyes and groan as I get killed in some stupid way. The balance still needs to be made. For me, Battlefront 2 has the opportunity to be a fun, exhilarating, and even crazy experience, but also managed to not be unfair or gimmicky. Ewok Hunt seemed to do a great job at this. Maybe more hunt modes can be added in the game, or maybe another game mode or a modifier to the existing modes can help the game to be more fun. More events are popping up in the game, but these only last for a few days at a time. A new mode should be here next year, but this seems as if it will be another generic mode. This is definitely a welcome game mode, as it will not be another one-sided game mode. However, I am worried that it will try too hard to play out like a Battlefield game. I miss the original Heroes vs. Villain mode, for example, from Battlefront 2015, which didn't end in one squad of friends murdering the opposing team like in Battlefront 2 2017. That mode felt unique and was something that could only be played in a Star Wars game. And I also miss those faster and more chaotic moments from Battlefront 2015 as it embraced the energy that the movies were able to give off. When Battlefront does allow the game to get crazy, it only lasts for a short amount of time or is only talked about for a few weeks. Ewok Hunt is available as a permanent mode now, but it is hardly mentioned anymore. And it is pretty hard to join a match now. Imagine if further updates were made to that mode which helped it to stay fresh with new balances and changes. That would add countless hours of entertaining gameplay to the game just by doing things such as randomizing the shuttle's pickup location. I think that Battlefront doesn't need to be ashamed of being a goofy game or an over-the-top game, and instead needs to embrace it. Star Wars got its success by being this fantastical world unlike many others. I think that the game should also embrace this rather than retreading paths laid out by competing games. I am sure there are plenty of others out there who just want to have a fun time playing out Star Wars fantasies of what if Vader fought Rey, or what would an 8 vs 8 battle between the stars of Star Wars look like. These moments can occur, but seem to happen less often as the majority of the standard games play out a little too straight. I want Battlefront 2 to start falling into insanity. Healthy insanity, that is. So how can this work? I don't have an exact answer, of course, but I do think that additions such as updates to Ewok Hunt and experimenting with game mode modifiers is a good start. The new weekend events are definitely a step in the right direction, and the new game mode sounds promising. We may never see Battlefront 2 reach its full potential, since it is most likely not being funded or backed as much as it needs to be in order to offer the same standard and frequency of updates such as Fortnite or Rainbow Six Siege. But for what it is currently offering, I think that Battlefront 2 is heading in the right direction. I just need the developers to shake up the snow globe that is Battlefront 2 a little harder here and there if they expect me to stick around for long. And that's it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing and all those beautiful things, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye guys.